Hello, I will be referencing some notes on my laptop along with the questions that need to be answered. So the first question, what does the ACE tool measure? The ACE questionnaire, so Adverse Childhood Experiences questionnaire, measures an individual's exposure to potentially traumatic experiences that have occurred during their childhood, including abuse, neglect, and household challenges, which might include domestic violence, substance abuse, mental illness, incarceration of a family member. And the questionnaire is not intended to diagnose a child, and educators, we do not administer the ACEs questionnaire, which is a really big thing that I learned in one of my previous courses. That is not our responsibility. This is just kind of background knowledge for us to kind of make connections as we get to know students and have some ideas of maybe what their potential ACE score could be. But it's not to diagnose, but rather just to identify experiences that might increase their risk of that physical, emotional behavior and mental health challenges that might come up later in life. The next question is, how might it help educators understand student behavior and background? So kind of going off what I was just saying, for teachers, understanding the adverse childhood experiences can give us important context for the student's behavior and the background of where they're coming from. Students who might have experienced these ACEs might show different behaviors like defiance. They might seem withdrawn or inattentive or emotionally reactive. And I know I just finished my first year and I've been working in schools for a few years now, but it's so easy to label a kid as ADHD or defiant when there's actually something else going on. So recognizing that those behaviors might be rooted, like I said, in trauma, rather than just trying to upset you. All right. Based on your reading and experience, how might a high ACE score affect a student's learning, behavior, emotional regulation, and relationships in the classroom? Well, when a student has a high ACE score, not in all scenarios, because we also talk about resilience, but in a lot of scenarios, I think of one student in particular of mine that from the outside seems like he has, when you look at his family, it seems like that family has it all together. He was adopted by amazing parents. They have everything that the child could need, but in the classroom, he is defiant, he's withdrawn, he's inattentive because he needed to feel connected and feel loved and feel safe before he was able to get to the front of his brain and actually learn. So when students have a higher ACE score, those things happen. It's harder to concentrate, it's harder to retain information, problem solve, and regulate their emotions because they don't have those tools too. It may also affect their impulse control, difficulty trusting people. I'm just looking at some of my notes too that I didn't want to forget to mention. Relationships with peers and adults can also be impacted because trauma can make it difficult for them to feel safe and connected. I think understanding these impacts of a high ACE score is so important because we interact with students every day, and we are usually the first adult to notice the sign of distress. So instead of thinking like automatically this child is just trying to upset me or I need to take this child out of the class, it's no, like, let's see what's going on. Like, why are we acting that way? Not what is wrong with this student, but like what might be happening in their heart or in their head right now. And just extending more compassion and grace to help those students feel safe, understood, and feel excited about learning. All right. Identify and explain 2 trauma-informed practices you could implement in your current or future classroom. All right. So a few of these I already am implementing. So I just went to a conference on conscious discipline, which is heavily trauma-informed practice, which is so amazing. But something that I've done last year, I do morning meeting every day, and this is something I plan to have for the rest of my teaching career. And when I have children, I would love to have something like this. But They call it morning routine. Some people say morning meeting. Some people say Brain Start Smart. So in a Brain Start Smart, kids are coming in, they are getting connected with their peers. They are also sharing about maybe what's going on. A lot of the times I do a check-in with them. So if I don't have a check-in where everyone shares, I will team them up with some partners, and then they have to share with their partner, and then they come back to the circle. And rather than saying, all right, I'm feeling this way, maybe on these days we'll come back and I have to share how my partner's feeling and why, and my partner has to share how I'm feeling and why. So we're teaching listening skills as well. But there's also a unity portion of Brain Start Smart, so it also is getting them moving. They're all doing something together, whether it's like a dance or some sort of activity that gets them all going together that isn't their check-in, so something else. And then we also do wish wells. So we do a check-in. We wish people well that are not at school today. So we take a minute and we hold our hearts. We take a deep breath in. We think of positive, loving thoughts, and we send them to that person. During wish wells, we not only send those wish wells to our friends that aren't at school that day, but we also have time to share. So if maybe your dog is not feeling good going to the vet that day and you're really worried about them, we'll wish them well. Maybe grandma's not feeling so great, we'll wish her well. So they have the opportunity to share, and they truly love the wish wells. Like, I'll have students come back and other students will be like, we wished you well yesterday. Just really cool. So that's one thing I do. Another thing I do, let me think. Consistent routine. I always have our routines posted. If there is a change, we always call it a pause in our road. So if there's a change that we see coming, I always tell them as soon as we know about it that, hey, today, remember, in the afternoon, we aren't here. We're going to be on our field trip. So we will leave at whatever time, and I let them know about changes ahead of schedule. But I also, this year with my teaching, have noticed teaching flexibility is very hard, but it's also a crucial skill for these kiddos to have as they move on through their education and then get into careers. So we have some days where maybe we have a fire drill and we don't know about it, or maybe there's a change in schedule for the whole school, or we have to switch our specials times with someone. And so we just say, remember, we can be flexible. It's okay. We know. So we're going to do this instead of this. And I tell them as soon as I know about it. And that transparency, I think, is really crucial. Like, Mrs. Ginup didn't know. You know, if I would have known earlier, I would have told you. Things happen. We are flexible. We want to help our friends. If a friend needs something, we will help them out, because maybe one day later on we forget something and we need to switch a specials time. And yeah. And then lastly, briefly reflecting on my ACE score, or how they impact my understanding of trauma. I know I'm going over time because it says 3 to 5 minutes. This is something I can include in with my video that I did for another course. We had to take the assessment and then reflect on it. So I will include that below. I'm so sorry that I went over the time. I try to keep it pretty short and to the point, but thank you so much for giving us this option of recording. I do think it kind of helps me feel more confident in my understanding of what we're learning, because I'm having to actually speak about it and not just type my notes. So thank you for that, and I hope you have a great day.